Welcome, everybody. My name is Danny Moss. I'm a staff officer on the professional development team for Alberta Teachers Association. Joining me as well is Christine Kwong from Alberta Regional PD Consortia. She's from the Edmonton region. And so thank you so much, Christine. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm the EdTech consultant for the Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium. Been doing this for about 4 years.
Awesome. She's very modest, but she's super smart and talented and nice. So that's great. So we're here to learn about using Google Forms for quizzes. So why don't we start off with, let me just make sure I have my settings right here. We are not going to limit you. All right, why don't we start off, just so we can wrap our heads around this before we learn how to make a quiz, why don't we, I'm going to share with you a link to a quiz. So why don't you take this quiz? If you want to, pop open your chat and click on that, and what should happen is you should see a quiz that looks like this. Just a few sample questions. So what you can do is, number one, you're seeing kind of what is possible in a quiz, but what you're also doing for our purposes of our session here is you are filling in this quiz, and I'm going to get some responses here that start to fill up really quickly. All right. So as you're filling out that quiz, let me just kind of help you wrap your head around what Google Forms does for these forms or quizzes, whether you do them in quiz form or not. The thing to know about this is that there are kind of two views. One is this editing view that you're seeing on my screen, where I can go in, I can add questions, I can set it up, I can see the answer key. The lovely lady who made some comments at the beginning, I apologize, I didn't catch your name, but you were seeing things like this answer key that's in here, and it's like, oh man, are the kids going to see that? No, so they're just going to see sort of this other view, this published view that lets them just fill in the quiz. Okay, I'm already realizing that I missed a very important question, but we'll take that as a learning opportunity. So you're seeing the quiz from this side. The teacher sees it on the other side. So what the teacher can do very quickly, here are a couple of things I want you to notice before we dive in to figure out how to do this on our own. And by the way, I'm going to give you a copy. Why don't I do that right now? You may have seen that link already. Now, I screwed this up last Friday. I think I did the original quizzes. Anybody here for that one? Here is a link that, if I did this right, you should be forced to make your own copy. Make a copy. There's too many links together. There we go. Make a copy. So click below, make a copy, and you should be forced to make your own copy. Can someone acknowledge that that has actually worked? All right. Yay. Thanks, Christine. So what I want you to notice in this quiz is the following. Number one, I changed that header graphic. Check it out, I even put my Bitmoji in there. Working from home. That never gets old, right? Anyways, there is multiple choice. I've added a block of text. I've even added a YouTube video. I have a question where a picture is part of the question. And I have a picture or a question where pictures are part of the answers. And so all of these types of questions are auto-gradable. In fact, there are even more types of auto-gradable questions, and including drop-down. So I've got check, multiple choice, and what you also see here in the following question is a checkbox where you can select multiple answers. So let's go behind the scenes and see what there is to see. So before we learn how to do this ourselves, what I want you to notice here from the teacher side, just in terms of the big picture, is the teacher can then go in and see what the responses were. So what we can do is, for example, this is what's called a summary response. all of the 40 responses together. And what you'll see, oh, and it's live. We've got 41. So these responses are changing live. And so we see 95% of people have got the first question right. You guys are very, very smart. So there, in this third question, there were 2 correct answers. What you may have noticed as well when you did the quiz was after you filled it in, let me just, let me just, I'm going to get this one wrong. All right. So what it will also show the students is view score. So I've given them a chance to see their score. And what it will show is which ones they got right and which ones it got wrong. And check it out. When I got this second question wrong on the fraction, it even gave me some automated feedback that says, watch this video to learn more. So here's a video I could learn to watch more about it. So it'll show me if I got them right or wrong. This one is wrong because there were 2 correct answers and I only selected 1. So, and the correct answers were option 1 and 4. So it is showing them what the correct answers were. Now I can change all of that as a teacher, but that's just in this sample how I set it up. Okay, so that is what you can see behind the scenes as a student. When after you've done it, you'll see that part, and then behind the scenes as a teacher, I can see how everybody did. So now I have an opportunity to go back just to see how they've done. I can go back and I can do some reteaching, either with the whole group or just with certain numbers of kids. So just so you're aware, there is this 2 sides of this Google form. There is the side where I'm editing as a teacher, and I can get to all of those forms that students have filled in or quizzes that students have done by visiting forms.google.com. Or if I've saved it in a specific spot in my Google Drive, I can go there and just open it up. And this is the view I will always see as a teacher. I can drill down. We'll look a little bit later how you can drill down from that whole class summary view to a question by question by question. And for the lady who had lots of auto-gradable questions, but then 1 or 2 essay questions or short answer questions to manually grade, that's how you would go in and grade that. And then finally, you can go right down to individual students and how they did, okay? The final thing I'll say is for those people who like to have all that information in one place, you can then click on this spreadsheet and it pulls all of that data and it will update it live as more people fill it in. Look, since I started, we're at 43 people. And it will suck all of that data into a whole bunch of spreadsheets. If you're a spreadsheet person, that might be very cool for you. So will Google convert a quiz from other formats you've already created? Not really, and I've looked for ways, and there are a couple of things. What I will show you are maybe some shortcuts. I have an example today of, I've got a PDF document. You know, maybe it's some released grade, what just happened? My PDF thing just closed. So maybe it is, let's see. Maybe it is some released questions from Alberta Education. Like here are some grade 6 released PAT questions. Maybe this is an example from the grade 5 MIPI that Edmonton Public Schools created, some multiple choice questions. So there are ways that we can make this faster in terms of bringing them in. All right. Okay, so let's get started with how to do this ourselves, okay? There are kind of a couple of ways you can do this. One is just a really fast, super fast way to create a new Google form and turn it into a quiz is just type forms.new. Okay, that is one way to do it. But what I'm going to suggest you do is go into your Google Drive, drive.google.com. You don't have to do it this way if you want to just create a form. What I like to do, the reason I like to suggest people go into their Google Drive before they create a Google document is you can go into the exact folder you want. For example, here's one called quizzes. And you can go in here and then you can go new Now, where's the form? It's not there. Well, you have to go more in Google Drive, new, more, Google Forms. So you decide whether you like that or not. If now it's in this exact folder. Now, is there a way after I've already started to create this that I can, if you've already gone forms.new, can I just choose where it goes later? Yeah, you can do that as well. So I know this is a session about Google Forms and not about Google Drive, but it's handy to know some of these shortcuts. So I've just typed in forms.new to create a brand new form, and I will just call it fun quiz. I don't know. The moment I give it a title, what you'll see up here are two things. Number one, it says untitled form. If I've typed something in the main title of this page here, and then I click into where the name of the file is, it'll just pull in whatever I've got on here. I have seen that Docs to Forms add-on for Google Docs. I don't personally find it super easy to use, but hey, you know what, Christine, if you're thinking it's a good one and you actually like it and have found it to be quite useful, that's awesome. Maybe you can demo that one a little bit later, because I tried it earlier this morning and I thought, oh, this is not actually as easy as I thought it was. That's just me personally. So let's say I want to get this, I've gone forms.new, it's just sitting randomly in my Google Drive. What about if I want to put this in that specific folder, that quizzes folder? You see the little folder icon next to the title? You see this in Google Docs and Google Slides, you see it everywhere. This is a handy tip. Go into that folder, it's move. It's actually a button to allow you to move it to a different folder. That's what I want to do. I want to move it to that quizzes one. So I'm just scrolling down, there it is. Now, if there was another folder inside of a folder, I could keep hitting these arrows and drilling down. But you know what? I'm happy just in this general quizzes folder. I'm gonna just move it into there. Okay, so now it's going to be in here. Ah, there it is, fun quiz. There it is. So now I'm gonna go into this fun quiz, okay? So that is an option for you. I'm not really aware of any quiz banks. You'll see them a lot on tools like Kahoot or quizzes.com. There are loads and loads of bank questions, but I need to work a little more to figure out how to make the connection between those two in terms of importing. I'm not aware of any tools that will do that for you, or to be able to export from a different site like Kahoot, even download it as a PDF or a Word document. So let's get started here. The thing to know about this interface is that there is this floating toolbar on the right side where you can add a whole bunch of stuff, different types of questions. You can even import questions from different Google Forms that you already have. So it doesn't import files per se, but it will import other quizzes you have. So if you want to start developing a master kind of a quiz bank with a couple of colleagues, you can in Google Forms itself, and then just draw from it using this import. There's a text feature. We can put blocks of text. We can add pictures by themselves, videos by themselves. We won't go too heavily into these sections, but you ever seen filled out a form online where it's like you do some things on one page and it says next, you go to another page, then it does that. That's what the sections do. Now there's a whole branching forms piece that we could go into for purposes of creating a quiz. I don't personally find it very useful. But if I wanted to do a form where I say, you know, what is your favorite animal? You know, a bear, a tiger, a cheetah. I shouldn't say tiger, right? Is everybody watching the YouTube, the Netflix, Tiger King? Anyways, so based on people's answers, you can send them to different parts of the form. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure thing. That's not really useful for our quizzes thing. So I'm going to avoid that today and focus on this, but it is there. It is a possibility. And if we have time at the end, or if anybody's really curious, we can look at that. So before we go any further, what I need to do is turn this sample quiz into, or sample form into a quiz. Because what I need to do is to have that ability to have that answer key. So to do that, look in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see the settings gear, fidget spinner. Anybody still on a fidget spinner? All right, so click on that gear. The chat's a little quiet today, man. Nobody owns a fidget spinner? So go over, once you're in the settings gear there, over to quizzes, and let's turn on make this a quiz. Now they have a cool feature for when you're back in school with your students with your Chromebooks, that you can actually do this locked mode. If you have school division Chromebooks that are managed by your division and you're in your school, you can turn this locked mode on, and when they start the quiz, it goes full screen and it doesn't allow them to leave until they submit the quiz. It's not going to work when your kids are at home, so we're going to leave that alone for now. So, do you want, before we leave this quizzes section, we've turned it on to make it a quiz, great. Do you want to, if you're only doing auto-gradable questions, it might be useful to release that grade immediately. But if you have some manual graded ones like the essay questions or short answer that you want to actually mark yourself, let's say 80% of it's auto-graded, but then you've got a couple of short answer ones in there for long answer, then choose later after manual review. And you can go through those results like I was going through, and we can just manually go and say, yep, that one's right. No, make your decisions that way. Now, do you want, when they get when they do get that grade released back, do you want them to see what the correct answers were? You might want them to see, oh, this was the correct answer. I thought it was this, but it's actually that. You might not want them to. You might want them to keep working and keep studying and then come at this quiz again. So there may be reasons why you want them to see or not see questions they got wrong, they missed. I'm not sure why you wouldn't share with them which questions they got wrong personally, but you have that option not to share that with them. The correct answers one is the one you need to decide on. Where do you kind of fall on that yourself? Like, you can let us know in the group chat. Do you like to show them the correct answers automatically so they can learn from it, or do you want them to kind of do some relearning, reteaching, and then kind of take another run at it? So that's really up to you. Whenever you're ready, just the main thing to know here, and remember, is you have to go to that little fidget spinner settings gear, go to the quizzes and make it a quiz. Now that we do that, boom, now I'm going to see something here when I go into a question with the answer key. Now, what types of questions can I do? There's a whole bunch of question types you'll see, some really handy ones. For our purposes, because we're doing quizzes today with Google Forms, I'm going to focus on mostly the ones that are auto-gradable, and that is multiple choice, check boxes, drop down, and believe it or not, short answer, you can have it auto-gradable. It's really fussy. Like if you get a capital letter wrong from what your answer key is, it won't accept it. But you do have the ability in the short answer, ones that are auto-gradable, to allow for multiple correct responses. So if you want to say, you know, a location with a capital or without a capital, two different answers that are the same word, one's capitalized, one's not. What would people use short answer auto-gradable for? Well, maybe things like individual vocabulary words or math questions like numbers. People want to type in a number. Instead of having it as multiple choice, maybe you don't want to show them any things. Make them work the problem out and type the answer in a number form. So that's what that's. So we'll go through some questions here, and we'll just start creating some. In fact, did everybody get that? You can also, if you wish to, I gave you that link to have that copy of this quiz yourself so that you could open it and see behind the scenes. You won't see all my responses, yours will be blank, but you can see behind the scenes. So let's just start here with a question. Let's see here, what is 8 times 4? And now for your options, if you're creating these questions from scratch, you can, a keyboard shortcut is hit enter, the enter key after each option. So it's just a little bit less clicks, and it's just, you can just start getting into a flow of creation. Enter 34, enter 36. Okay, so those are my 4 choices I want for this particular multiple choice, and I'll now go into the answer key, okay? And which one is the correct one? Well, it is 32, so I select that. You see how it lights up green? And then I make sure, I always forget this. So don't forget this one. Don't be like me. Choose the point value you want for that, okay? I'll make it 1 point here. Now, here is that answer feedback thing. I don't know if you noticed in the sample one for the fraction, if you got the wrong answer on the fraction, it gave you this little feedback thing. So check out the add answer feedback. If you want to, you can then make this really sort of a self-directed, self-learning thing, such that when people finish the quiz, they see how they did, and it's like, oh, I got this question wrong. Well, hey, you can type a message, a customized message, a customized link, or a customized YouTube video, or a combination of the text and one of these choices for when they get an incorrect answer, or even if they get a correct answer. Why would you give feedback if they get a correct answer? Well, maybe there's more they can learn and more they can be interested and go further with something. Click here for some more, for this practice game after this, or click here to learn more about this topic. So very easy to do that. You can just say, look in chapter 2, page 44 to learn more. You don't even have to give them the full details. You can kind of make them kind of earn it, work for it. So you can attach a link to that if you really want, or if you want, you can attach a YouTube video on it. So if I just say multiplication for beginners. You shouldn't do this on the fly. You should really watch these videos. What is multiplication? Basic multiplication. So I'll just select that one. Let's say that would be a YouTube video that they can watch. So if they have an incorrect answer, Laurel asks, is there an option to have the questions read aloud to the student? Yes, there is. And so I will go to the preview button of this previous quiz. Remember this quiz, the sample one? I'm gonna open it up as if I were doing the quiz. And by the way, did you notice that there is this little eyeball at the top right next to the fidget spinner? That will give you, at any point in time you want to see what will it look like for students. Click on the eyeball. Now, most school divisions in Alberta have the read and write toolbar. And so what you can do is enable that read and write if you've got the purple puzzle piece up there. And by the way, most school divisions who have read and write are able to, from their IT department, kind of push it out to all the students so they just have it every time they sign into the Chrome browser. So when they're at home, they can have the read and write toolbar or any other extensions that the IT department has pushed out. So now I have got this. I highlight this and I hit the play button. It's not really a great sentence, was it? But you can see that read and write feature does work in there in the quiz, okay? All right, so I've got my question, my multiple choice question. This is a little confusing for people just getting started with quizzes, because not only have we talked about how there's a teacher view and then there's a student view for when they just fill in the quiz, but even within the teacher view, there's kind of two views of every question. One is the part where you are creating the question and the answer options. The other view is that answer key where you're selecting which one is right and then the point value, doing that feedback if you want to. So you just have to remember to go back and forth. Now, do you want to make this a required question? They have to do this question. If you make any questions required, if they haven't done it and they try to hit submit, it won't let them. Now is a great time to put one important piece that I forgot to start off this quiz. I always recommend people start off this quiz with the first one is name. Okay, because even though you can assign this very, very easily through things like Google Classroom, and it will kind of show you when that particular student has done the quiz, when you open up the quiz, let's take a look at those responses. What you'll see here is, I'll go to that summary, you'll see here, I didn't capture people's email addresses, but if I had captured people's email addresses, it would just show people as their email address. Now in my former school division, Edmonton Catholic Schools, the student email addresses were 7-digit number at blankety blank blank ECSD. So it didn't tell me who they were. So add a question and call it name, okay? And then what you can do is you can rearrange, you can drag these questions around. What you'll notice here as you mouse over a question, you'll see these 6 little dots appear at the middle of the, kind of top middle of the question. Do you see that? You can drag and rearrange these things. Look at this, in the answer choices, I can rearrange these answers options if I want to, okay? All right, on to the next feature. When you, let's say I want a very similar question for my next quiz question, but I don't want to have to retype it all from scratch. At the bottom of this editing portion of the question, when I click on, I have to click on it first, okay? So I'm going to click on this question, what is 8 times 4? And you can see right next, I can trash it, but I can also duplicate. So if I click on that, boom, it's going to make me another question that's exactly the same with the same questions and same answers. And you have more than one blank question in one, like having 2 drop downs in a question, not that I'm aware of. So that would be pretty cool, actually. You're talking about like doing some matching stuff, or what would that mean? What sometimes people will do is we'll put, let's say, a video or a link and say, watch this video and then answer the next 4 questions. You can do something like that. I don't think that's really answering your questions. So let's say I want to say, what is 9 times 4? And then I can go into my answer key and no, it's not 32, it's 36, and keep it as 1. 1 point. So don't forget the point value. Then you can duplicate these questions fairly easily. All right. There are other question types you can add. I'm going to hit add now, and instead of multiple choice, I'll choose check boxes. And it's really the same thing, question, answer, answer key. Are there any questions about that basic piece, the question, the answers, setting up an answer key, making it required, that kind of thing? Anybody need a redo on that one? Can you show switching the order of the question again? Yeah, so what you do is you're in this editing mode, Kim. You basically, when you put your mouse over a question, you can see these little 6 dots, and my mouse turns into these 4 arrows. So you can just drag and drop to rearrange. How do you do name? Hit add a question, and instead of multiple choice, do a short answer. And in the question, just say name. And guess what? We are going to make it a required question. And guess what? Are we going to put anything in the answer key? No, we're not. Are we going to make it worth any points? No, we're not. So then I'm going to want that at the very top. I don't need 2 name ones, so I'm going to delete that one. Click delete. So just you'll get the hang of this as you start to do this a couple of times. Let's see. I find it difficult to drag something from the bottom up above to the top. I don't know why it doesn't seem to work for me. Drag from the top down to the bottom. Can you insert an equatio math question? Absolutely. And I'll demonstrate that in a bit. Absolutely, I'll demonstrate that in just a few minutes. What I want to show you for this particular question is that in addition to just words and numbers, you can insert pictures. You can insert pictures into the question. You can insert pictures into the answer choices. So why don't I say, we're going to do grade 6 trees and forests. Which of these trees is coniferous? Check boxes. I'm going to make 2 of them coniferous and 2 of them deciduous. So now, see where it says option 1 in your quiz, in your question, your answer rather? This works for multiple choice and check boxes, doing the pictures and the answers. As I mouse over the question, I see a little picture icon show up. As I mouse over each answer choice, I see a picture. I'm not aware, Neil, of how to create matching questions that are auto-gradable in There is a form called a checkbox grid or a multiple choice grid. Is it possible that somebody could get super creative in the way of matching, but you know, to have a list here and a list here and we draw lines or, you know, that kind of thing? I really wish there was that feature, but I'm not aware of it. So if anybody else knows of a different way to do matching questions, yeah, because wouldn't that be nice if we could have some words and then a drop down, here's the definition, which word is it? Go down, here's the definition, which word is it? And just do that kind of matching thing even. Not aware of how. But back to the picture. So I'm doing a question here. Thank you, Neil. I'm going to go into the options and I click on this picture. Is everybody clear on where we can find or how we can add pictures? So if I just go over here and I click this, now check this out. This is great. It gives me so many options for adding a picture to this question. And in this case, I'm answering it, putting these images as answer choices. I'm saying which trees are coniferous. So I've got lots of options here. I'm going to choose Google image search. And in the Google for Education tools, anytime you see that image search built into tools, these are copyright-free images. So I'm going to say coniferous. So I'm going to use that one for my first answer option. Does that make sense? Watch it. It's just going to pop in here. Come on. It should just pop in here. Come on, man. I've got a live group of people. Google, help me out. Why didn't that work? Add an image. Click it. Insert. Something went wrong. Oh, Lord. I'm going to just refresh my page. Sorry, everybody. Live demos. All right. So let's go. I'm going to go down to this. I just refresh the page. It just gives me that again. I'm going to try this again. Option 1, add an image. Google image search. Coniferous. Click a picture. Maybe I'll click a different picture. I'll choose insert. Loading image. Yay, there it is. It worked. Now I'm going to go to the second option and I'm going to do the same thing. Google image search. And I'll choose a different type of tree, like a poplar tree. And you can do it that way. Man, this is really being fussy today. I've never seen it not working before, but for whatever reason, it is not being super functional today. So I can keep going, and then in my answer key, if it's a checkbox, a multiple checkbox, I could say which ones are the correct answers. I only got 2 choices here, but let's say I had 4, I could pick 2, make the point value, and done. You could do the same for a question. You can make a picture in the question, and I haven't forgotten your Equatio question, Jad, and others who've asked about Equatio, Jillian. I'll do that for sure before the session's over. But let's look at a scenario where you already have a quiz. Let's say it's in multiple, in Microsoft Word or a Google Doc or a PDF. You already have a kind of what you used to do on paper. Is there a faster way to bring in some of these questions for things like multiple choice? And the answer is yes. So let me just hit the plus button here to add a question. We'll keep it as multiple choice. And I'm going to open up something. This is a sample of that. Edmonton Public Schools has the sample mathematics intervention program instrument, these MIPI questions. I just wanted some sample math questions, okay? And if anybody needs to know where these MIPI questions are, in case you'd like to play around with this, I just put a link in there for you, okay? Provincial achievement exams, you can go and see released questions, and I've scrolled down and drilled down into particular subject area, and it will show released materials for different grades. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that here. You may have your own Word or PDF versions of quizzes. So I'm just going to go to one here, And here's what I want you to notice, okay? I'm going to split my screen now, just so you can see both sides of this. I want you to see how this works. So I have a new question. The only thing you've got to do with your PDF or your Word document, the only thing to remember is you have to do the question separately from the answer. So I'm highlighting the question, Control C, come over to my question in my Google form, Control V. Good? Answers. Watch this. I can highlight all 4 answers. To do this one by one will be pain. So to copy all 4, Control C, go into the first answer option, Control V, and boom, it'll pop them down first, second, third, fourth. Anybody need that again? Would you have to save the image and then upload it to the question or the answer selection? No, you don't have to. You can upload it if you want to. You can also do a Google image search, but if it's a picture you already have, then you could even look in your Google Drive if that's where it was. Okay, that was pretty slick, says Kim. Carla says yes. I'm assuming, does that yes mean you want to see that again? I'm going to, that is easier than the Doc to Forms extension. Yeah, I find that too. So I'm going to add a question. It's a multiple choice here. I'm going to copy the question text, Control C, come in here, Control V. Good. The answers, highlight all 4. Copy, just go into the very first option of your Google form and Control V paste, and it'll pop it down to all 4 things. Okay, people are asking about equatio and asking about fractions and things like that and pictures. So for those of you, does anybody in the house here have equatio? It's that blue diamond. It's made by the same company that makes Read and Write. If you do, now equatio is free for teachers, and if you just Google equatio, free for teachers. In fact, Christine, are you familiar with that website where they have you fill out a form to get equatio free for teachers? If you feel like it, you can Google that and paste that in there. But I just want a demo here. Let's say, do you remember this sample quiz where I said, what fraction is this? Or which of these are parallelograms? I used equatio and it took me seconds. Here's how to do it. I'm going to do a multiple choice question. I could also do this as a checkbox question, anything where we can add a picture. But instead of adding a picture, if I have equatio installed, Chris, to answer your question, I was in a PDF. So wherever you can highlight and copy 4 answer choices, you're good to go. Even a web page, doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm gonna go into these, let's say I wanna say, what fraction is this? So I'm gonna go to the question, and to the right of the question, I'm seeing this blue equatio thing, and I have equatio installed. So once I have it installed, it's this blue diamond up here. It's this extension. I just hit Insert Math, and up on the bottom going to pop my equatio toolbar. Now this is, we don't have time to do a full equatio beginner session here today, but I just want to give you the big picture. So I've got my equatio toolbar. What fraction is this? Well, I want to insert a math space because I want to show a picture of a fraction, okay? Math space pops me open to this new page. I've got a whole canvas here. And look, it's even connected to my Google Forms. You see that fun quiz in the upper left? It's a canvas that's meant just for this quiz. So now I'm going to go down on my shapes and I will click the square. Whoops. That's a rectangle. So now I'm going to do the insert button over here. Just made a square, insert, do it with money, 10 grams. You've got base 10 blocks, a whole bunch of stuff. And voila. So I could say, what shape is this? Oh, darn it. I was going to do what fraction is this, wasn't I? Let's try this again. So I'm going to just delete that picture that's in there, remove. What fraction is this? I'm going to hit my equatio button again and insert math space. So what fraction is this? I'm going to go down to these smart shapes and choose fraction. Do I want a fraction bar, fraction circle? Well, let's choose a fraction circle. Well, I don't want 1/5. Click on it, choose how many segments and how many you'd like filled in. Hit the insert button and it pops back into my quiz. Now, guess what? Students, when they're filling out your quiz, if they've got a place for a short answer, their equatio button's going to show up. Short answer, okay? Make it a short answer question. And instead of them typing something, they're just going to hit equatio and they can fire something in from equatio and then demonstrate it. So instead of short answer for this one, I'm going to do multiple choice. And I could just go 1/6. But if you think that looks terrible, another thing you could do, look, I have the answer. I have an equation option here. And in this case, I'm just going to go with the equation editor. In fact, I don't even have time for that. I'm just going to use the speech input. I'm going to hit that and I'm going to say 1/6. Ooh, there it is. Insert math. And there it is. So there it is. It brings it kind of in as a picture, but there it is. So long story short, that is how you can use equatio, okay, for teachers. We need a lot more time to dig into equatio, but to just stick with sort of the spirit of this whole session, can you add interactive questions like select or color? That would be very cool. 3/7 of the tiles. Now, I'm not familiar with how you can have kids interact with that. With something you've already put into a form. However, if you had a Google Doc or Google Slide that you were giving a copy to each student, you could have them open up equatio and insert a math space to demonstrate, 3/5. Or I could even say, insert a fraction that is 3/5. They go into their answer, short answer, and hit the equatio thing, open a math space, and then create that fraction. Before I leave, I want to show you a couple other interesting things, fun things to make this form look nice. You can customize the theme. So please change it from the default purple if you wish to a different color. You can even have subcolors once you're in there, or you can choose a header image. Now, I made for fun, a little Google drawing that had the ability to add my own custom header. If you're interested in that, just let me know and I'll share with you this Google drawing. As soon as I'm done adding what I want to, I go File, Download, PNG, and then, okay, good. Someone's interested in that. Why don't I share with you? I'll share with you this whole folder, okay? I don't know what you're going to find of any value in here in this folder, but I'm going to go to get a shareable link. Let's see, link sharing. No. Get a shareable link. But is it, okay, link sharing it off. I don't want it with anyone with Concordia. I want anybody can see this. Bear with me, everyone. Anyone with the link can view. So you can view this folder. And then just if you see anything you like, just file, make a copy, okay? File, make a copy, file, make a copy. So that'll be this Google Forms header thing. So we can choose a different custom header for this particular thing. There are lots of different ones you can choose from, or you can upload your own pictures to be, and that's how I did it with this Google forms header. I chose whatever. I used the Bitmoji extension, but you can make it whatever you want. Okay. And in Bitmoji, I just, let's do stay home. Just drag it from the Bitmoji menu up there. It'll say creating images. If you want to add some other text to it, you can insert text box, or you can insert word art. Example, quiz. You can do this. You can use these header things for your Google Classroom too. And then you can just download them as a file, download PNG. Watch it. See it down there when you download it? See that? Going over to my quiz, and I'm gonna, where do we find that? How do we upload our own header image? Well, you go to that palette, color palette there for customized theme. You choose an image, and then where it says upload, it says drag or browse for file. I just go boom, I drag it over. Thank you, Mr. B. You can drag to rearrange which part of that picture to capture, and then hit done, and it'll put it in. Christine, is there anything you can think of that I'm missing from this session in terms of quizzes? I guess what we could talk about is how to get this to students now. Collecting and
I was going to say that's probably when you're just starting with quizzes, the biggest issue that people do is they actually share the link that they can edit instead of the one that they view.
Okay, perfect. So let's imagine you're Google Classroom users in here. I'm just going to go to classroom.google.com. There are other ways. If you're not Google Classroom, don't worry. There's lots of ways we can distribute this. But let's start with Google Classroom because so many of you are in Google Classroom. I'm going to open a Google Classroom, go into my classwork. Are you familiar with this, everyone? Going into your classwork section, I'm going to create an assignment. Create assignment. Now, where is this quiz living? It's living in my Google Drive. So which one of these do I click? I click on Add. There it is, Google Drive. And guess what? You just finished working on this quiz form. There it is, fun quiz. Good question, Anne, and I will explain the answer to you. You know, the next thing, because people always ask that question. So I'm going to hit fun quiz. I'm just going to add it. And that's all I have to do. If I want to put instructions, great, but I'm just going to hit assign. And by the way, tell people, use the schedule piece. If you don't want the kids to see this until next Monday, schedule it for next Monday. It will pop up onto the Google Classroom exactly the date and time you set. But if I do want to hit assign, I can just do that. Now all the kids do is just open it. They click on that and it's automatically in for them. And as soon as they hit the submit button on the quiz, it shows up in your Google Classroom as turned in. Does that make sense? I don't think the locked mode works when you're, I think the locked mode only works for district managed Chromebooks. So if you have Chromebooks that you've given to kids from your school division to take home, that locked mode might work, but I don't think so. Can you put a time for completion of the quiz? I suppose you could do it in the due date, but I don't think it will stop accepting. Christine, do you know the answer? I don't think it will stop accepting submissions at the due date. I think you've got to go into the form and set that up. So here's how you do that. I'm in my quiz. This is my creation of my quiz, okay? To stop accepting any more responses, I go to responses. See where it says accepting? Now I turn that off. There are a couple of other options in here. Look, I can download this. If you're an Excel person and not a Google Sheets person, you can just download all the responses in an Excel sheet. You can, look, what if I had another session here and I wanted to reuse this? I've got 43 responses. I want to reuse this quiz. I want to download, and then I want to delete all the responses. I can hit delete all responses. There would also be a place here, and I don't remember exactly if it's right here or if it's in these 3 dots, and Christine, maybe you know. But remember the part where, because I've set this quiz up to automatically send it back to people, but remember the scenario where we've got several auto-gradable questions, but we also have an essay question. Let's say I want to add a long paragraph question. So there is no answer key for a paragraph question. It has to be something that I would manually grade. So in my settings, I will turn it in later. So I'll hit save. So now it's not returning anything to kids. So I go into my responses. It's accepting responses. I go through question by question, individual by individual, and I can see the responses. And then whenever I'm ready, I can then release those grades. It will show that up here as I'm manually grading some of those things. It'll give me that option for releasing those grades. I can't remember. Christine, do you remember? I can't remember. Does anybody else? It is right. It is in the response, and it's right around here somewhere. It might. I think it's right in here. It'll just say release the grades, but it might be in these 3 dots. And for anybody who's curious to see what this spreadsheet looks like, you can just create, and it'll pop it open in this Google spreadsheet, and you'll just see it's all the data. And if you're a spreadsheet person, you like to filter out which kids answered C for this, or how many people got this one wrong, so I can do some follow-up. You can. It even shows the exact date, time, and second that they submitted the form.
Sorry, Danny, were you asking about where you see
Yeah.
how to release? I think because you already released automatically, you can't see the option, but it's because you can see the timestamp. It says scores released on April 2nd. But if you hadn't released them manually, I think it's in that section where you would see it.
So it's in the responses, but do I have to dig down into these 3 dots here, or will it just show up kind of?
No, I think it shows. See where your cursor is right now? Go down a little bit more, and it says scores released on the 2nd.
Then I would have to say manually release.
It would go there.
Yes, release the grades.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. We're at 10 o'clock. That's the main portion of this session. So I'm just going to hit stop recording.